So I just recently watched Werewolf by Night for the first time. And I know what you might be thinking. This has been out for over a year. And I didn't even watch it before Halloween. I watched it a few days after. But, I finally got around to it, and I gotta say, I really loved it. All that being said, this is the only Marvel project that I didn't see when it came out in recent years. And by recent years, I mean since Age of Ultron. I've tried to keep up with everything as soon as it's come out, and this is the first thing that I've skipped for this amount of time. I haven't seen Loki season 2 yet, but that's only been out maybe 2 weeks in terms of like in its entirety, and the Marvels has also only been out like 2 weeks in theaters, so I'm gonna get to those, but this is the only thing that I haven't seen that's been an extended amount of time. I really do love this monster and supernatural side of Marvel. We haven't really got any of it yet in terms of what we could get. We're obviously going to get Blade at some point, even though that's having issues of its own. But it's nice to get this like step into the world of monsters and the supernatural and the occult in Marvel. I think Werewolf by Night does a good job of getting the creepy and the spooky in there without actually making it scary. I mean, I guess if you're a kid, you probably think it's scary. But in terms of like the story as a whole, I'm not good with horror. I get scared very easily. But I wasn't scared during this, and I love that. I really love the Halloween and the spooky aesthetic and the vibe of that time of year, but I'm not a big fan of being scared in particular, so this is like perfect for me. It could have even been a little scarier for me, honestly, but I liked what they did and I like what we got. I thought the acting in this special, I was about to say show, but special, I thought the acting in this special was really good. At sometimes it's a bit campy, but it's that classic old school Halloween horror movie type of campy where it fits. Like some things are meant to be like that. It's part of the aesthetic. Like the Wolfman design, the werewolf design, it's meant to be more of the old school Wolfman look. CGI has obviously come a long way since they made those old school horror movies, and you could easily make a very good looking CG werewolf now, but there's a time and place for the practical versus the CG. Like, they made a CG one for Harry Potter years back, but there was a time and place for that, and it worked there. And I'm glad that they went with the old school sort of suit, I guess, for the hair, prosthetics, and just hair and makeup for this Werewolf and Werewolf by Night. I like this whole monster and monster hunter storyline in Marvel where it's not really a reveal, but for lack of a better word, of the reveal that monsters and monster hunters have been at it for years and years, just in the background, behind all of the superheroes and supervillains that the world has seen in recent times. Monsters and monster hunters have been around for a long time. It's just not so big of a thing in this world that it needs to be at the forefront of like an Avengers movie or anything like that. It reminds me a bit of when we got the introduction of the Darkhold and of Agatha into WandaVision in that part of Marvel, where Agatha's backstory is she's from Salem. And so witches and witchcraft have been around in Marvel also for hundreds of years. It's just not been at the forefront of everything going on. Those people and those, just beings and artifacts just kind of take a back seat, live in the shadows, and they just don't come out into the spotlight as much. I thought it was really cool that we got the introduction of Man-Thing in this special. I really don't know much about Man-Thing. If I'm not mistaken, he was yet another person trying to recreate the super soldier serum in the Florida Everglades, I believe, and he became Man-Thing. I know a lot of people who didn't know who Man-Thing was will think, oh, Marvel made a Swamp Thing. But Man-Thing debuted, I think, a month or two before Swamp Thing did for DC, so this is one of the rare instances, I guess, that Marvel beat DC to the punch. I'm glad with the way that this special ended, that we have the potential to see these, I guess, three main characters, if you count Elsa, Jack, and Ted. I like that we have the possibility to see those three in future Marvel projects, and I really hope we do. My one issue with specials in general that I didn't have with the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, because that's part of, the Guardians story that's been going on before and after the special. I don't like when I get attached to characters in a special or get attached to a story in a special and then we just never see more of it. I think that I have that issue with movies sometimes where like I want more. Obviously that's how you get sequels made. People want more from a movie, but a special in and of itself is already less than a movie. You're getting less content. And I don't want another Werewolf by Night special per se, but I would love to see these characters' story continue in another Marvel project of some kind. We could get a cameo in Blade or something else dealing with this side of Marvel, but with all the issues that Blade is having production-wise, I'm not getting my hopes up for anything. But you know, I'm crossing my fingers that we can get more of these characters. I would love to see them continue on in Marvel for some time. I think the fight choreography really works in this special. A lot of times in Marvel, there's just a lot of CG. You can tell it's on a green screen, or I guess they don't use blue screens anymore. Do they? I don't know. I guess it's green screen most of the time for Marvel in terms of like your Iron Man fights and all those big characters. But I like that in this, the fights are grounded. You can see the budget too. Set pieces go from here to there. There's probably only 2 sets in this whole special, maybe 3, and they just reuse pieces, recycle, move things around. Even the props, like the axe that's used is probably foam or plastic, but it doesn't matter. It really works. I think sound design helps that. I think the score helps that, which really helps when your director is doing the score. But yeah, I really think the actors and the stunt doubles did a great job. And can I just say that I'm really glad that they were able to incorporate a little bit more gore, even though there's really not any gore, it's just blood. But I like that they were able to include some blood splatter and splashes, even at one point where he rips open the guy's like stomach and chest area and it sprays onto the camera. I really like that they were able to do that. And I think this is a PG-13 project. They probably wouldn't have been able to get away with that if it was in color, and I think the black and white really helps with that. And speaking of which, let's just segue right into the last thing I want to talk about. I really like the use of color in this special, or lack thereof I should say, because the only thing in color for the longest time, up until the last like 30 seconds, is the Bloodstone. I really think the black and white works for this. It does exactly what they wanted it to do, which is make it feel like one of those classic horror movies. And it helps with particular scenes like the werewolf transformation, where the shadows on the wall are telling the story of what's happening behind where the camera is. And I really just think that the black and white works well. And the red Bloodstone is good contrast, like in what else does that? Does Wizard of Oz do that with the red slippers? Am I misremembering that? Something else that I've seen does that, where something's in color and everything else is black and white. Maybe it's not Wizard of Oz, I'll think of it later. And also, speaking of the Bloodstone, that's a very interesting artifact too. Where did it come from? What is its actual power and use? I know how it's been used, what they've told us, but what is the Bloodstone, really? Is it just what they say it is? Is that it? Where it's just, here's what it is, take it at face value, there's nothing more to it? Or is it something else that has just been used for this purpose? Who knows? Maybe we'll get these answers. That's an artifact that I would love to see in a future project. You know, it kind of reminds me of an Infinity Stone in the way that, well, it is a stone and it glows, but it's one of those artifacts in Marvel that you don't really have a lot of information on until later when they explain it more. You know, I imagine if any of these characters come back into future stories, we may hear about the Bloodstone or see it again, especially if Elsa's there. We'll see the Bloodstone again. And I think that would make an interesting story, depending on where they can take this. And I don't really have much else to say. I really loved this. I know Marvel's been up and down lately, especially for me, in my opinion. Some things have sort of not met my expectations quite as much, and then some things like this, where I kind of went into it with high hopes, even though it has been out for a while. and they were still met and in some ways exceeded. So I don't know. I have great faith that if we see these characters again, they will be done justice. So until next time, I don't know what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be watching Loki season 2 soon, so that'll probably be the next video. And hopefully, I won't lose motivation and take a few weeks off again. So, bye.